All right. Bang, bang. Welcome. Another week of DFS football. Last week, the cash game was lit. The GPP, not so much. Why? Because we were all over, or at least I was, because of price recommendation of Cam the Scam Newton the week before. Red zone carry after red zone carry, touchdown, touchdown. He didn't get any of that. Rex Burkhead just destroyed us in the GPPs with Cam Newton. And then me, personally, I feel like somebody's going to win $1 million this year with Mitch Trubinsky and Allen Robinson combo. Allen Robinson went off. Mitch was doing good. He had, I think, a 40-yard run, 13 fantasy points, got benched. So maybe the $1 million maker winner this year will not be from Mitch and A-Rob. But instead, we might find our boy Nick Foles and A-Rob. So that's enough talking about last week. Not to mention, I ended up picking against the other dads, Price and Dustin, instead of Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, who decides to, showboat at the 1 yard line like Deshaun Jackson. So it cost me. Yeah, he scored the game-winning touchdown. Good for him. Cost me the cash in all my GPPs. So I'm a little bitter. But new week, we got some COVID tests being positive. So the Titans game looks like it's being moved back. It's going to be interesting. Price, Dustin, talk to us. What do we think for this week here early on before we break down the positionals?
It's going to be another good week. Yeah, Dustin's Cowboys have to face the vaunted Cleveland Browns this week with old Baker Mayfield coming to plant the flag on them. Should be a good game. Got, Chris's boy, Scam Newton against the Chiefs. So he'll go 40 points, 10 points, and then 40 points, knowing him. You got Russell in another smash spot, except he's 7,800 this week.
Jeez.
You got my Texans finally don't have to play a top-tier team. They get the lowly Minnesota Vikings. So maybe they'll actually win a game. You got some – you don't really have a cheap defense this week, which kind of sucks. So I actually have to pay up for one. And then it's super tight pricing, I think. They did well making you have to think for construction this week. There's not just a plug and play of, like a 4,900 running back who's going to smash and then like cheap 6K receivers with a top-end quarterback you can fit everything in. Most of that's probably due to the not being able to punt on defense.
Yeah. Yeah, and last week, we didn't have the Chiefs. We didn't have the Ravens. There's a couple other teams we didn't have at our disposal to concern ourselves about. So it was pretty easy last week constructing lineups from McKinnon, who could have easily had 30 points in fantasy, to also Singletary, who had all those goal line opportunities to really smash. And then you had a very easy game to predict with the Seahawks and Cowboys that was going to shoot out. That, yes, it was chalky, but it was good chalk. There's some bad chalk out there, like Kenyon Drake of last week, but good chalk was the Seahawks and Cowboys, and it was a Gallup week. So this week at Price or Dustin, is there a certain game that you're focusing on, like the Cowboys and Seahawks of last week, or do you think there's a few games to target?
I mean, I think this week there's not that, glaring game where you're like, man, this is going to be a shootout like the Dallas and Seattle game last week. And, it lived up to expectations for the most part, besides Dallas losing, of course. But I told y'all early this week, and one of the games I'm watching, we're going to keep an eye on for my lineup is the Seattle game against Miami. But I'm looking at Fitzmagic at quarterback. Besides that first week in New England, has played really well. I think he had like 18 straight completions the last Thursday night or something like that. Has some weapons around him. They suck at running the ball, and Seattle's been just a freaking I mean, they've just been getting beat all over the place. I mean, every game they play is a shootout, it seems like. So I think there's some value there. Fitzpatrick's pretty cheap, and you can pair him with Devontae Parker. You have Preston Williams as well. Even Gaskin, got 16 carries last week. I think had 5 or 6 targets, and then obviously Gesicki at the tight end. So I think there's a lot of plays there that can you can get leverage elsewhere, and then obviously you have all the top end guys that we haven't had every week with Patrick Mahomes, Lamar, and so it'll be interesting to see the ownership projections with those top end guys, because people seem enthralled by Lamar and Patrick Mahomes, and kind of see where the projections go and kind of how you want to build your lineup based on some of those things, especially for GPP.
Yeah, for sure. I would definitely say Lamar Jackson, who's been the biggest bust of this year. If you play seasonal leagues, people are drafting him in the second or maybe like the early third round, has been a complete bust. And Patrick Mahomes, I feel like, was the safer pick this year. And Lamar Jackson, if you watched him in the in the All-Star games, there he couldn't even. His accuracy was horrible, and this year has been a very bad start to the year. And Washington, their front seven on defense is legit. The Ravens want to run the ball. They've been looking a little suspect. Their OC, who had Colin Kaepernick, I believe, with San Francisco when he was absolutely beasting, and then everybody figured him out, and he was horrible. It's interesting to see are they figuring out that offense and what to do against it, and is Lamar Jackson taking a step back, and he's not the most accurate. Looks like he missed Hollywood Brown last week for a big touchdown, but I'm not buying the price up top for Lamar Jackson at the 8,100. And then now you have to worry, like Russell Wilson, 7,800. That's a big number there. And against Miami, where you might think that the game script might not go against Russell Wilson for having to pass a lot, where last week against Dallas and some of the other weeks their defense isn't good, but they're in shootouts. Even Josh Allen, he's been, as Dustin has alluded to all season long, quarterback number 1 in fantasy football. He's now 7,300.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I get it. I get why you would want to play him still, but he's not a bargain.
Right below that. I mean,
yeah.
If you look at Kyler Murray up, I mean, all those guys have been really good. Besides Lamar, as far as his price point and his points per game this year, all those other guys have been freaking money. I mean, they score a lot of points every week. I think Russell Wilson has 14 touchdowns through 3 games. I mean,
insane. It's insane.
Crazy.
And the Kyler Murray is now 7K, right? So really where I'm looking at is Deshaun Watson at Houston, who has played a pretty brutal schedule. 6,600 is not bad to pair him with someone like Will Fuller, playing against Minnesota's defense, who is not good either. Big Ben would be interesting, but that game is, I'm not, you don't want to get anywhere near that game. It looks like it's postponed. And so when you go back down, like Joe Burrow is someone who, for a GPP play, can be lighting it up. Their offense is, Joe Burrow's running 5 to 7 times a game. He is in the top of the leagues. He's somewhere in the top 3, top 5 for sure, and in his average passing per down. So Joe Burrow is somebody to pair with an AJ Green. I think is pretty interesting within the GPP world. He's playing Jacksonville this week, which is a great defense to go against. And then what I think could be a very high scoring affair could be the Chargers versus the Bucks. Chargers, their defense is just getting decimated with injuries, and they are playing very fast. And then you have the Bucks on the other end with Mike Evans, who had 2 catches for 2 yards, but he had 2 touchdowns. With Godwin out, he could be a good play. So that's kind of where I'm at with that aspect. What are you thinking, Dustin?
I guess you're just skipping Price on the QBs because he gave you Scam Newton last week.
I'm not talking Price tonight. Price is out of my. First off, the drink he's drinking is amazing, but there's a citrus and there's a mango. All right, he's drinking the citrus. Now, if you're from Texas, the citrus is gross, but the mango is just on point. So I'm a little mad at Price.
Mississippi, so you can't get either.
All right, so Price.
All right, back to quarterbacks. Price, give us your QB takes this week.
Well, Russell Wilson's going to pop out first. I mean, great matchup. He's actually getting to throw the ball a ton instead of them being, 65% running. Plus, Carson's hurt. Hyde hurt his shoulder again, which I believe is the same when he had surgery on the offseason. So that kind of puts a damper on the running game because then they have DJ Dallas and Homer, and that's it. Neither one of them are really runners. I would like Deshaun, but I think I'm going to attack the running back in that game. Same thing with Burrow. I know he was asked last week, but Cam Newton's in a good matchup, and the Chiefs are going to put up points. So
hold on. Stop. All right. What was Cam Newton last week?
6,700 last week.
No. What did you say? How did he play last week?
Like ass.
Okay. Thank you. All right, go ahead.
Just like your lineups.
That hurts. That hurts, man. I'm a smaller player, a few $100s here and there, but whenever you get to 1, 2, 4 figures in your lineups, and you're like, I'm all over Russell Wilson, and then you switch to Scam Newton, it hurts, man. It hurts.
Just have to scroll back to what I told you before the pod last Wednesday.
And what was that?
Don't enter all those contests because you're not at that level. Anyways, back to the quarterbacks. I really like Stafford this week. The game has the second highest total for the games on the slate. I believe it's 54 points for that one. Obviously, the New Orleans offense, watching them Sunday night, they look great. So that's one where you could go Stafford, Galladay, running back with like Kamara. Where do you think the Saints are going to be up, and then Lions are going to have to throw?
I like that stack. That's actually really appealing.
I really liked Baker, but they don't throw the freaking ball.
53% of the time they run the ball.
They're such a good matchup. Dallas's offense is fucking phenomenal. Their defense is trash, so it looks like it should be a shootout, and you should be throwing to Odell, Landry, and Kareem Hunt.
No, they upgraded their offensive line. Cleveland does not believe in Baker Mayfield passing the ball, and they have Kareem Hunt, who on their second string, who would be a starting running back pretty much anywhere else.
Yeah, 2 starters.
They have 2 starters. They literally upgraded their offensive line. They have these 2 great running backs. They're not, and they run the ball 53% of the time. They are going to run the rock, and they're going to do it all year long.
I do like the Fitzpatrick call. Face-up game, they're going to be down. He's going to have to throw it. A really interesting one would be Derek Carr. I mean, Goff. Look at what Goff did last week against Buffalo. If he can do that, then why can't Derek Carr, right? Especially you got Higbee scoring. He's got Waller. If Ruggs is back, that'll be a big deciding factor. So that could be a sneaky play right there because both offenses are pretty good. Josh Allen's been on fire like we talked about. So if you have them putting up points, Carr's going to have to throw. So that's someone who's probably going to be less than 3% owned.
Yeah, for sure.
And
that price point, 5,300, really opens up. And honestly, the quarterback position, even though playing Cam Newton proved that it does matter, where I was all over Russell Wilson. But the quarterback position, it can be very minute of the differences. So playing a Derek Carr or a Fitzpatrick and getting these players at 5,300 or 5,400, it can open up a lot of stuff as opposed to playing a Russell Wilson who is, like Price said, in a smash spot, but he's 7,800. So that saves you a lot of dough to put to your other positions.
I
What do
will
you
say,
think?
if you're going to go low, it doesn't make sense to not use Fitzpatrick because of his legs. Because obviously it's his fantasy scoring, so you need the fantasy points, and he's had a rushing touchdown each of the last couple of weeks. He led the team in rushing last year. Gaskin is mediocre at best. Jordan Howard, fucking awful. He averages 1.5 yards a carry. So if you're going to go cheap, you might as well take the guy who will give you, 4 or 5 points from rushing the ball.
Yeah, and we know he can sling it. I mean, he's one of those that could go off and throw for 450 yards,
And you got to use him until Tua takes over.
What about Herbert, who they're playing a very high octane offense? They're running up a lot of plays, and Price was right. Eckler, right? But since Ramrod is not playing at quarterback position, Herbert's taken over, and they're passing the ball a lot. Herbert is throwing to the running backs at 23%. He likes throwing to the running back. So this is a high octane offense, and Tampa Bay's defense is not bad, but with Tom Brady, Bruce Arians is throwing the deep ball to, Godwin's going to be out, but that offense has a lot of plays every single week. And once again, 5,800. That's another good matchup, don't you think?
Yeah. I'd rather use other people than Herbert this week.
So like so you would say your top quarterbacks, are you saying we're not Wilson, not Lamar, not Patty Holmes, not Josh Allen?
No, Wilson is my number one quarterback.
Yeah, but when you really think about playing a GPP, do you want to play Russell Wilson, or do you want to go all the way back down to a Fitzpatrick at 5,400?
If I'm going to play a true GPP, I'm going to play Russell Wilson, stack him with Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, and run it back with Devontae Parker, and pray this game shoots out like it's supposed to, and that I get all the fucking points. Because Gaskin's trash. He proved that last week. He can't score. And then you got the Seattle with hurt running backs. Their tight ends are mediocre, so it's going to go Lockett, Metcalf. Parker's been great. He dominated last year. He's been great this year, even though he's been kind of banged up. They didn't need him last week. I think that gives you maximum leverage in the game that's going to have one of the highest totals if you really want to smash into GPP.
Yeah. And I go ahead.
I was going to say, how many people are going to pay up $7,800 for a quarterback?
Not many.
Yeah. Not many.
And I think it was right. Like last week, man, you could have ran Lockett and Metcalf, and you don't need to be shying away from playing both of them along with Russ. All week long, I was like, do I want to play Lockett, like my buddies over here, my other dads, or do I want to play Metcalf, who I think has more potential? In honesty, you could have played both, and you would have smashed with both of them.
That's how I cashed in the afternoon slate. I played Russ with both of them.
Yeah. Smart man.
So now let's go dive into the running backs this week.
D. Reed, break us down with the running backs.
RBs. So obviously Kamara was phenomenal, right? I mean, watching that game, that 50-yarder he took was pretty – and that's the thing, right? He has these weeks where looks spectacular, and then New Orleans does some weird stuff, and chugs it with Latavius Murray, and gets the
Taysom Hill.
Forget his name all of a sudden, and so it's kind of hard to super trust him. Especially given his price point, which is, what is he this week?
8,000.
8,000. I mean, that's another one of those, like, man, that's hard to swallow in a lineup for a running back, right? Especially one that loses touches to Murray. I mean, Murray could easily get 2 touchdown plunges near the goal line. But to me, it's kind of hard to take him. But like Price said, a GPP type of play maybe this week, because is that many people going to pay up for an 8,000 running back? We'll know more here in the next couple of days when we get the ownership projections and whatnot. But let's see, I like Dalvin Cook this week going against the Texans. He was a beast last week. He's been pretty good pretty much every week, even though Cousins has been trash. I mean, he turned it on last week and looked awesome all of a sudden, but Dalvin Cook's kind of been the steady workhorse and has performed week in and week out. I think he's a very safe cash play. You can put him in your lineup and you don't have to worry about it too much. I like CEH this week for the Chiefs. He's getting all the run. I mean, they still are running. He had 1 week where he only ran the ball like 10 times, but most of the other he's getting 16, 17, 18 touches running, and then he's picked up his targets each game, I think. And so, just being so involved in a high explosive offense, I think he's another safe cash play where he's going to get points. Let's see here. Moving on down my list, James Robinson, who Price has been high on every week, is in another good spot going up against Cincinnati. He's getting all the touches. I think he had 6 catches last week too, which was up a lot from the first 2 weeks. So he's getting more involved. And he's played really, I think he has 3 touchdowns on the year too. So another guy you can kind of put in, going to get most of the work, don't have to worry about. I do like Montgomery this week for Chicago. I know Indianapolis has a decent defense, but I just don't think they've been really pushed on the ground game. And
towards ACL.
Yeah, so he doesn't have to put up with the gimmick, the third down guy. He actually catches the ball really well. It's just a matter of, is Nick Foles going to elevate the offense enough to give him opportunities? So I think he's a sneaky kind of a play this week where he's going to be the 3-down back now and going to get you some catches, so you don't have to worry too much about him getting you some PPR points.
And we can finally see all those traits. When he came out of college, they said he's like Saquon Barkley mixed with Le'Veon Bell with Dalvin Cook's speed.
I haven't seen that yet too much, but I think he's a guy that not many people are gonna tag. And then Mike Davis is a freaking anomaly. I mean,
how the hell does McCaffrey get 4 targets a game? This motherfucker gets 8 catches a game. It makes no sense.
It makes 0 sense. And I'm like, I have no idea. And I hated him last week going up against the Chargers. Chargers have stopped everybody, and the dude went off. It's like
I guess Rule is just an SEC guy. He doesn't like the Pac-12.
Yeah, I don't know. So Devin Singletary, I think, is another good play this week. But damn, that dude cannot get in the goal line.
And Moss is back.
Is he going to be back?
Yeah, he practiced the last 2 days. So.
And yeah, I'm not on Singletary with Moss back. I mean, we had him in a smash spot last week, and Buffalo had the ball 5 times within the 4 or 5 yard line, and my man gets 0 touchdowns.
Josh Allen got all those touchdowns.
It's almost like you didn't read the RB breakdown where I said Moss was back.
All right. Well, to move on from that, Alvin Kamara is turning into a running back number 1 in seasonal leagues and turning it out to be running back number 1 this week for sure. $8K, still a little high to pay for, but he is getting insane. He's getting like Mike Thomas like reception or targets. It's just insanity. But personally, I like to move all the way back down. And last week, Price was right. Eckler is the man. All right. He had 11 targets with 11 catches. That's not going to slow down. Last week was his first week of really breaking out from the Kelly shadow. The weeks before, the distribution was 50-50. It felt like, and it was. So I was a little iffy on playing Eckler last week, but it was the right call. It was the right play. And their offense is high octane. They're running a ton of plays. So last week he had 12 rushes and 11 targets with 11 receptions. My gosh. At 7,100, I love Eckler here. I absolutely love him. The Bucs are going to put up points. Bucs are going to put up points because the Chargers defense is getting decimated with injuries. And so Eckler is in a smash spot, in my opinion, this week. And then whenever you make your way down, Singletary, I agree. But right below Singletary, it's Joe Mixon. And he last year was, I believe, number 1 in evading broken tackles. And then you had my boy Josh Jacobs. This year he's been really slow, but the matchups have been tough. I know he's played Myles Garrett. And now you got Jacksonville. Jacksonville, guys. 5,800, Joe Mixon. He's still an 80% share of all of the rushes. His snap share is 80%. Joe Mixon can evade tackles like no other, just like Josh Jacobs. And at 5,800, right below Singletary, I think he is once again another smash spot. So those are the two I really like. And Montgomery, price has been on this guy all year long. I am officially jumping on the bandwagon. He does not have a lot of people that's going to take away from him. So those are the 3 people that I am looking to absolutely destroy this week. And I think that's where I'm leaning, at least as of today.
Well, the thing with Kamara, you got to remember, so he's the RB1. He's also the wide receiver 4 in PPR.
Insane. And what is DraftKings?
It's full PPR, baby.
It's full PPR.
So, yeah, he's expensive. How can you not use him?
He's not that expensive, really, when you think about it. Wide receiver number 4.
McCaffrey's been $10K.
Yeah, exactly.
I do like Dalvin Cook this week. So, Dustin, I think you're spot on. I think Houston's giving up like 5.5 yards per carry. So, as much as I would love to see them actually win a game, Dalvin's going to run down their throat and they can't stop him. So, I was really looking at Kareem Hunt, but apparently he hurt his groin, and they elevated Hilliard from the practice squad, which means he is hurt. So, that means it could be Nick Chubb week.
Ooh, where's Nick Chubb at?
He's 7K. I don't think many people are going to use him because you either use Kamara, Cook, or you'll drop down to one of the cheaper guys. So you could get Nick Chubb, just like Eckler last week at 5% owned or less, in a fucking great spot.
Yeah.
What about Eckler and Chubb?
I would rather do Kamara than Eckler, to be honest.
Oh, I'm worried again because you're the Eckler fanboy.
I know, but Kamara's higher upside. I kind of like John Taylor this week too. He's back down a couple $100. He's 6,600 in a pretty good spot. Chicago's not that great defensively against the run. I think I might go back to Kenyon Drake. I'm really hoping that because he bombed last week, people stay away from him. And he's in a fantastic fucking spot because the Panthers are trash against the run. And no one's going to use him.
Another week, like so many damn good running backs that you got to pick between. I thought I had it all set up. Now Price is talking. I'm like questioning all my decisions
David Johnson
here.
This week.
Talk to me, Price. Why?
If you look at the metrics, everyone's run down Minnesota's throat. Houston, they have a decent run blocking O-line. It's not very good passing. You saw flashes week 1, but look at the defenses they faced, Like Houston had the worst fucking draw to start the season. So you get the Chiefs, the Ravens, and then the Steelers, who are stout against the run, and now you get the Vikings. Now, how many people do you think are actually going to use David Johnson? Not many, because they're going to want to stack Deshaun with Fuller and run it back with one of the Vikings, because it should be a high-scoring game. So you get him at suppressed ownership. Then the other person, I was really hoping White would be out again, so you could go to Burkhead. But with White back against the Chiefs, he could be a nice little sneaky play too. I'm worried to see how he actually gets used because he wasn't used much in their first game before he missed the last two.
Yeah.
And then surprisingly, I believe Antonio Gibson is the number 4 graded runner on PFF for the season. Now he is facing Baltimore, who they're pretty tough, and Washington's pretty bad. But that'd be the only person under 5K who I'd look at. But y'all touched on a lot of guys I like because I love Montgomery, love Cook, love Kamara.
Yeah. The running back position this week, I think you need to have 2 plus a flex personally. I don't know. Do y'all agree with that? Because I feel like there's so many good running back positions, and the floor is higher than these receivers. Yes, you can predict targets, but doesn't mean you can predict production, where running back, I feel like it's a little bit easier. There's a lot of good running backs this week.
Yeah, I think receivers just offer more upside as far as, a long ball and getting
Big play touchdowns, yeah.
Yeah.
One guy we didn't touch on, which I wanted to get y'all's input on, is Henderson. The dude got 22 carries last week, and the Rams are going up against the lonely Giants in a game they should be leading. And I just, it's kind of one of those deals where, are they just going to pound it with Henderson down their throat?
Is Cam Akers out?
He's questionable. I think Cam Akers, I think this is the last week for Henderson to smash, and I think he can smash this week. But going forward, he's going to be splitting time with Cam Akers 50-50. And I think this week you could. But if you're – a lot of y'all are playing DraftKings this week, but if you're in a season-long league, this is a sell high for Henderson, in my opinion. But I think Cam Akers is going to come back and take a lot of shares away. But this week, Henderson, I think, it's a completely fine play for sure.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if Akers is out, I mean, if he's in, then it's a no-go because he's going to split. But I just feel like the amount of volume he got compared to Brown last week and going up against the Giants, I think there's a lot of upside there.
For sure.
Yeah, for sure. Let's get on to the receivers, and this is a very interesting spot. Last week, you had Lockett and DK. They've all got bumps up. So it's once again, DK did a good job this week, making the values not as obvious. But this is where we're going to come in and show you the values. Dustin, what's your first take here on the receiver spot here?
Yeah, so you have a lot of guys up there at the top. Obviously Hopkins has been great, and then Lockett, like we said, Thielen's had an off week that 1 week, but just catches touchdowns. It's like Kirk Cousins when he wants to throw a touchdown, just throw it to Thielen. Tyreek kind of has had a down year, in his abilities. So he's always a huge game guy. He's one of those that can just pop off at any time. You got Cooper. Diggs has had a great year. I'm actually, when it comes to receiver this week, kind of try to stay away from some of those top guys, depending on which games I'm going. If I'm going cash or GPP, obviously always dictates that. But a guy I think that's in a really safe spot, and me and Price both touched on him last week in my positional and Price in the pod was Keenan Allen. Got 19 targets. 19 targets. I mean, that's crazy. So obviously Herbert's looking his way often. Between him and Eckler, not many other people are getting the ball thrown their way. And so I think he has a really safe floor. So if you're looking for cash, I think Keenan Allen is a great spot this week. Kenny Golladay, Price touched on. Matthew Stafford, Kenny Golladay stacked right there with them. It was his first week back. They said he was going to be on a snap count type of thing. Obviously, still caught a touchdown, had, I think, 70 yards receiving or something. So no worse for the wear. Probably 100% this week or close to it, in a very good spot, high-scoring game. Still pretty cheap because he hasn't played this year. So I think Golladay is a great play. It'll be interesting to see how many people are on him as far as ownership, but love him in this spot. Devontae Parker, obviously I talked about Fitz at quarterback, so pairing him with his best receiver, Devontae Parker against Seattle. A guy that can go for it. Looking down, we talked about Carolina before the pod. You have two guys. Robbie Anderson has turned it up this year and has looked pretty good. And then you have DJ Moore, who saw 9, 13, and then only saw 4 last week, 4 targets. So I think he's in a great spot for GPP play. People are looking at him. 4 targets, for this type of price point last week. And being able to fire him back up because it's probably an outlier. I mean, from last year to this year, DJ Moore's been a stud. Quarterback plays a little bit worrisome with Bridgewater, but he's a playmaker. So I like him in a GPP play because he's probably going to be low owned and he's yet to really have a bust out game this year. Talked on AJ Green. Obviously had a ton of targets the first 2 weeks. Didn't really produce much. Kind of was overshadowed by his counterpart there last week.
Tyler Boyd,
and then T. Higgins came on the scene, caught 2 touchdowns. So that worries me a little bit. But at some point, they're going to go back to AJ. They kept him. He didn't go anywhere last year. So, and then you get down into the Jerry Jude that's the Thursday game. But somebody like Brandon Cooks, who I think Will Fuller would be a little bit higher on in that Houston game. And then you have Cooks, who had a really good second week. And his matchup, I was looking at matchups earlier. He has a really good matchup on paper. And so somebody contrarian to the Will Fuller probably be a little less owned and another big play guy. It's early in the week. Receivers, there's tons of them. Got to do a little bit more research, but those are kind of some of the guys I'm looking at just off the top.
Yeah, for sure. I'll quickly jump in here and then let Price take over. But Keenan Allen, like you said, 19 targets. I was not sold on this Chargers offense, but now that they have switched to Herbert, I am fully on board. So if I'm not going to, if you do not use Eckler at your running back spot, Keenan Allen is where I'm going to go wide receiver to start with for 100% sure. But if you're going to do Eckler, then you can pivot off Keenan Allen, obviously. If you want to do the Russ Wilson, you pair him up with the Tyler Lockett or DK Metcalf. Personally, I like DK Metcalf. 1, he's cheaper, and 2, I do believe he has a lot more big play potential. And if you're playing GPPs, that is where you want to go. Going down, Mike Evans, he might be a little higher owned than you would want, but he only had 2 targets for 2 receptions and 2 touchdowns. So I feel like this game has a chance to go back and forth. Tom Brady, a lot of people think of him as dinking and dunking, especially with his role at the Patriots the last few years. But his air yards, he's top 5 in air yards this year, and he's throwing the ball down the field. So Mike Evans, without Godwin, he's going to be out this game, is another spot to smash at 6,400. He's at a reasonable price where you go to very easily. Dustin touched on Galladay as well. 6K flat, second week back. That's another really good smash spot. But we'll let Price kind of break down the other ranges, and if I'm missing anybody up top as well.
I really like Tyreek this week. I know he's probably gonna have Gilmore on him, but he's just such an explosive athlete. And all he does is he scores a touchdown a week. He's going to burn you deep on a pass. Oh, we lost Chris. The podcast just got better looking.
Let's talk trash about him right now.
I would. I'm a little too tired since he decided to make us wait for 2 fucking hours to do this. I really like Devontae Parker, like you touched on. He's in a great spot. And then I like Odell at 5,800. I mean, who do the Cowboys have who can cover him?
Nobody.
DJ Moore.
Keep throwing the ball.
DJ Moore's in a good spot, like we talked about. I don't know what to think about the Saints receivers because I don't know if I'd go there. I might as well just go to Kamara,
Yeah, he's so
Especially,
deep.
I think Jared Cook got hurt in the game.
And I don't think they've thrown a deep ball the whole year.
I don't think Drew Brees is capable of it.
No, I mean, he will just dink and dunk all night. And who's his best option to dink it to? Kamara. So
I think a sneaky play could be Pascal. With everybody hurt, you got Pittman out. Chris's boy Paris Campbell's out. So now Pascal's the de facto number 2 no matter what.
yeah.
So as long as, if they're not going to run the ball down everyone's throats, then you got to look at him because it's Hilton, Mo Alley Cox, and then Pascal will be the next option.
Yep.
So, I mean, someone who could sneak in, get 7, 8 targets. It seems like teams are doing well throwing against the Bears.
The Bears.
I think I would rather lean Boyd than AJ Green, to be honest, this week. Because no matter what, I believe AJ Green's going to get most teams' number 1 corner.
What do you think? What do you think about McLaurin? It seems like his floor is 7 to 10 targets a game. I know the quarterback from Ohio State has been miserable this year, and if you're a fan of Alabama, or if you're a fan of Tua, you would say Washington. And no matter how good Chase Young is going to be, I think they should have drafted Tua at number 2, especially with the way Haskins is playing this year. McLaurin, though, 7 to 10 targets a game is very cheap this week.
I'd rather go to Beckham or Parker or DJ Moore because he's right in the range.
Beckham?
Yeah.
I mean, I know they're playing Dallas, but
This is analysis while we go.
My mic messed up.
But I'd rather go Fuller, Galladay, Boyd, Evans above him. And I'd rather go Beckham, Parker, Moore below him.
That's a very interesting range for GPPs. Somebody's going to be right and somebody's going to be wrong, but I feel like that range could decide if you're going to cash big in GPPs or not, right?
Yeah, for sure.
What do y'all think about old JJ Jefferson there in Minnesota? I mean,
That's a fluke
came
week.
on the top.
I don't think it was a fluke week, but I'm not going to go back to it and think like that's going to be a standard week for him.
I mean, for Cousins to be able to actually accurately throw the ball, it was a fluke week. The dude's fucking garbage.
Fair enough. Yeah, I like in my deep dive, I mentioned Cooper Kupp last week in the GPP, and he popped off pretty good there.
Wish I played him.
And he's in a great matchup. He plays the slot mostly. PFF, he has like a 73% advantage, but it's the Giants. They're going to be leading, so you can't. It's hard for me to trust any receiver in that game besides obviously the Giants, Slayton or Tate, which I think are great low plays. I think they're 5,000. Tate might be a little cheaper, and they're going to get 7-8 targets a game. But yeah, it's hard for me. Everything on paper, right? You can't just look at everything and say, oh, he has literally the best matchup of any receiver, and I'm probably not going to play him just because of the game flow. And so it's tough because you want to do it, and he still could. Early in the game he could pop off, but it's kind of hard to some of these matchups, to play guys and just hope the game flow doesn't get out of hand where they're not throwing the ball. So
I don't see myself playing anyone cheaper than DJ Moore this week. It's probably the lowest I'll go with receiver.
I like Slayton's upside at 5K. I mean, the Giants are so bad. I think he got 8 targets last week, caught 7 of them. I think he had a fumble too. But
I like the Slayton pick personally, especially for GPPs.
I think you need to go cheap at a receiver that's gonna get you something. You can't really go wrong, and then he could always pop off and get a touchdown. So
yeah, it's not like a Slayton isn't Isabella where you're just praying that Kirk is out or you're gonna get a couple touchdowns. So I like Slayton Pickett as well.
Who do you like
All
at
right.
tight end?
Yeah.
I like I hate to give Price credit. I don't like giving Price credit for anything. And before we get into tight ends and giving Price credit, let's talk about going to dfsdads.com. All right. If you want to get something free, just go to the DFS Dads. It's the same handle for Facebook and Twitter. Check us out for free. We give out some really good picks for Showdown. We give out golf picks for Showdown as well in between rounds 2, 3, and 4. Price is an absolute stud at putting those out for us. So it's free. Go to the DFS Dads. And if you want to check out the premium content where we really go deep dive into stuff, check out our Slack, become a member, become a part of the family. Give us a shot for a month, for a week, for a very low discount. Just use code RC. We'd appreciate it. Now, let's get into the tight end position. And you said, who do I like? And I said, I'm going to give Price some credit. So here it goes. Hunter Henry, the Chargers. All right. Eckler, Keenan Allen, Price, Dustin, Keenan Allen. Right. So, all right, I'm going to go to Hunter Henry. Why? Because ever since they got Herbert now at the realm, he likes throwing to his running backs, and he likes giving Hunter Henry some targets. Hunter Henry from the University of Arkansas is a complete beast. Last week he had 7 targets, and the game script against the Bucks, along with them producing a lot of plays, I think his price point is very fair at $4,600. So you're not spending all the way up there at the top to get someone like a Mark Andrews who literally shit the bed and is playing against Washington Redskins with a ferocious front seven. So I like Hunter Henry here. That's kind of where I keep landing, and I'm having trouble really going to anybody else but Hunter Henry, if I'm going to be honest with y'all. But that's kind of where I'm at here early on in the week. What about you? What about you, Price? I got to give you a lot of props, so you got to bring on some smoke here with us.
I'm gonna probably go back to Waller. Just like the Kenyon Dre play, who wants to use him after he lays a dud? He's 5,200, so he's the 4th highest expensive of who's going to play because Cook's probably going to miss. So you go back to him, he's in a plus matchup.
Yeah, very plus.
I don't really like Hunter Henry this week because the Bucks, they defend the tight end pretty well. They have really good linebackers.
Yeah, Devin White's a beast.
So, I mean, you have Devin White on him. It kind of limits – I mean, he should get, 4 or 5 catches for 40 yards, which isn't bad. It just kind of limits his upside. I really like going back to the well with Logan Thomas. 8, 9 targets.
Yeah.
It just opens up everything else you need.
So cheap.
Because he's 3,500.
What about the Baltimore defense, though? Are they not as ferocious as we thought they were at the beginning of this year?
He has nobody else to throw it to.
It's him and McLaurin, and that's it. I mean, and in theory, you could still run the Baltimore defense and just imagine that Logan Thomas is going to get 5 catches for 50 yards and not score. But at getting 10 points at 3,500 is still more than 3x. It's right at 3x. And then it allows you to go play, a high-end running back, a high-end quarterback, high-end receiver. It just gives you the flexibility. If I'm going to go in the mid-range, I'll probably look at Evan Ingram. He's 4,400. He's going to get, same 5, 6 targets. And who do they have besides him, Slayton, and Tate? That's 3 people.
I played Ingram.
I really kind of like Schultz, but Schultz is a super interesting play because the Browns just can't cover tight ends.
Yeah.
And the problem is Dak has so many weapons. It's just hard to really trust him. Besides Cooper, who is going to get, 8, 10 targets a week, the rest is like just fucking Russian roulette.
Yeah. Like, I want to play Lamb more. CeeDee Lamb is playing the slot. It's like so often. It seems like Seems like he should be getting more, but they just have so many weapons.
Yeah. So you left out your boy Chris, the tight ends.
TJ Hawkinson.
He's got a plus matchup, and he's played pretty well this year in what should be a high scoring game. It could be a little Stafford, Galladay, Hawkinson stack right there with the tight end. Obviously, you can't go wrong with Kelsey, who's in a great matchup against New England. He's in a plus matchup every week. So, as far as a cash play tight end, because it's kind of hard pickings this week, I think. As far as like a super solid, steady guy, you just had Waller go for, what he gets 16 targets, and then the very next
he gets 2 points the next week.
2 points. It's like, what the hell? And then you have Evan Ingram, who you're like, Barkley's hurt, Shepard's hurt. They have Slayton and Tate. Surely he's going to bang out, and he gets 4 catches. It's like, man, what the heck? And then you got a guy like Schultz, who, goes ham in his first week starting pretty much. So it's an interesting tight end year, and it's kind of been hard to pick from week to week. We've always been going Logan Thomas quite a bit because of the volume. It doesn't hurt you, especially being so cheap, and he just gets catches. He hasn't scored, but I'm not even gonna say his name, Herndon, but
don't say his name.
He's not on the slate.
Yeah. Oh, good. But
do you not know how to click to where it's just the people on this slate?
Yeah, but I'm looking at PFF, and it doesn't.
Okay. No, just checking.
I do toggle between stuff. I actually look at stats, like some of you guys.
All right, so on to defense.
But Gesicki for Miami, I know he only had the 1 catch in Thursday night, but they didn't throw it. They only threw it 20 times. But he's a guy that plays in the slot. He didn't really play tight end, and they're going to be trailing against Seattle, so he's another guy that I think can.
Yeah, that could also be a guy that if you don't want to play Parker because he looks injured, that just says that tight end, like you said, he plays in the slot, and if you want to play in GPPs, Ryan Fitzmagic, as Dustin calls him, then yeah, that's a great combo if you ask me.
You could do a game stack too, where you go Fitzpatrick, Lockett, Metcalf, Parker, Gesicki.
Woo! Is that the $1 million lineup?
It depends.
As long as you pair him with the Washington Redskins the Washington football team versus the Ravens, who I think have been figured out. The Washington Redskins have a great front seven. They literally have all of Alabama players at the front seven, and pretty much min price at $2,100. If you know me, I like to get cheap defense because there's not a lot of difference unless you pick the absolute correct defense like the Chargers last week, was it? And this week, once again, down low, you might think that the Ravens are a horrible matchup, but I think they can stop the run. Lamar Jackson has accuracy issues, and at 2,100, I think they're going to get off the zero. The Jets gave us 0 last week, so I think they're going to give us more than 0. That's kind of where I'm aiming and looking at. What about y'all? Am I wrong? The Ravens are not looking that hot, man. Lamar Jackson is literally, if you draft him in a seasonal long league, he's doing horrible because you draft him in the late second, probably, maybe the early third, and he's doing horrible.
I wouldn't say he's doing terrible. He had 28 DFS points the first week. Obviously against Houston, he didn't perform as well, and then obviously Kansas City. But
we only got 3 weeks to go by, Dustin.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying, like, you can't just chalk it up to the Ravens being atrocious. All this. Oh, we're talking about the Redskins or the Washington football team.
Their front seven is great, and the Ravens like to run the ball. And the offensive coordinator for the Ravens was the same OC for the 49ers with Colin Kaepernick, who just lit it up, and then all of a sudden they were laying duds.
What
And
else?
it seems like everybody caught up to the Ravens offense.
They scored 38 points week 1, 33 points week 2, and then laid it down against the Chiefs.
It's a men defense, bro. It's a men defense. What do you want?
But what I'm saying is, what do the Ravens do? They chunk yards, and then they hit a bomb on Andrews or Hollywood.
Well, he can't hit bombs if he can't throw it accurately.
Washington is not the answer this week. I mean,
Okay.
You can do that. They might be, but I'm not putting my.
All right, Mr. Defensive Guru. Who is your defensive pick for the week then?
I think I had the.
You think? I want to say I know what the pick is. What do you know, Dustin?
I got to make sure they're on the slate first. So
Oh God!
He doesn't want me busting his ass up again.
This is the guy who you're gonna trust in your DFS picks for the $1 million lineup.
I'm paying up for a defense this week because just you kind of almost have to. I'm going it with the Rams playing at home against the New York
Giants.
Giants.
You just said Darius Slayton and Evan Ingram are gonna go ham and banana sauce. Like what?
I said 8 catches for 70 yards. I'm fine with that.
And 2 touchdowns, right?
It's 3x. But it doesn't matter because the Rams are going to get sacks. Daniel Jones turns the ball over. He has those little crisp hands like you do. Can't hold on the ball. And so they're going to get
low blow.
They're going to get turnovers. They're going to get sacks. I don't care if the Giants scored 14 to 17 points.
Bro, why do you gotta make fun of my hand size, T-Rex arms?
But yeah, I mean, I think this is a week you can pay up for a defense, and that's the one I like. They're 3,900, and they're gonna get turnovers. They're gonna get sacks, and that's what you want. Last week we went low with the Jets, and they got 0 points, which isn't terrible because we only paid 2,000.
It wasn't negative.
But it wasn't negative, right?
The Washington football team will be negative this week in fantasy points.
All right. Bet.
All right.
That will be negative. I'm saying they're going to give us 1. They're going to give us 1 point.
All right. They'll be negative.
All right. What are we betting? $10.
Whatever you want.
Because, I mean, I look at the next one. I mean, obviously you can't play the Dolphins, right? Can't.
Oh, my God.
You know who the cheap defensive play is?
What's the most expensive one then, Price?
The Texans.
Yeah.
It's the best cheap defensive play. Cousins is trash. Load the box. Make him try to beat you, and he can't do it.
Or you could say $400 and play the Washington football team against Lamar, who can't throw an accurate pass.
I think it's Ravens, Rams, Texans, and possibly the Colts.
If they were playing a team that didn't have a mobile quarterback, I'd be like, okay, but they're not going to get as many sacks on Lamar Jackson. The dude's he's just fast.
Yeah. We'll see. Any last words from anybody? Any bets, Price? You got one bet over there to give us for free? I gotta admit, if y'all are still here and you're not subscribed, we just destroyed the college football slate.
They might not know we have a YouTube channel either, like some of us in here.
I'm telling them, go to Facebook, go to Twitter. It's the DFS Dads, and look, YouTube. I believe it's just DFS Dads. You'll find us.
I think the Chargers +7 is a good bet.
+7, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. I dig it.
Especially without Godwin. I mean, they haven't been like destroying people. They've been kind of squeaking it out a little bit.
And the Chargers were pretty good at stopping the run, which means it's lock in on Mike Evans, and then you pretty much control Tom Brady that way.
I cannot wait till the Washington football team gets at least
Scotty
one.
Miller.
They're going to get
point.
fucking 40 points dropped on them.
Maybe.
Yep.
Maybe not.
The Chiefs
We'll
lost.
see. We'll see.
I guess
All
we
right.
will.
All right. That's it, guys. That's all we got. Let's go make some money. Go check us out, DFS Dads, because this is
Look
early in
at
the
it.
week. We're about to break it down even further. Peace.